Hola, buenos días. ¿Cómo están? Buenos días. Oh, hi, Marty. Hey, Chelsea. Nice to see you. Hey, everyone. Hey, Jill. Everything is great. Well, Alida, it's lovely to see you here. You'll notice that I'm wearing. Hola, Margot. You'll notice that I'm wearing a lot fewer clothes than I am this time of year, and that's because, of course, I am here in Oaxaca. It's lovely to have everyone on. Hola. Hola, Nat. Tenemos que hablar español también. Okay, now, first of all, some of you who, hey, Mary Beth. Do you know everyone? So, Mary Beth and I were meant to have lunch in Houston, and we didn't because all the flights in the United States were grounded, but I still made it here. So, but it's lovely to have everyone here. I know. So, yeah. Is everyone hearing me? I didn't put my headphones in, and that is because I am here, hey, Ruth, with my friend Oscar.
How are you?
I would imagine many of you remember Oscar. We are upstairs in his restaurant here. Oscar is promising some virtual tours, but he's very busy. Hola, mira, está todo saludando. So, if anyone, well, first of all, if you haven't met me before, my name is Patrick Toomey. I am not from here, even though I look like I am. I am in, hey, there's Sarah, knows you from when we did a class here. Yeah. I'm obviously from the Canadian Rockies and Banff, but I'm down here in Oaxaca. I have a group arriving here today, so it's lovely to have you here. My friend Oscar owns Casa Crespo, and this happens to be a bottle of mezcal. You'll notice how not full it is. That is, so as they say, all tequilas are mezcal, but not all mezcals are tequila. But we are here in the state of Oaxaca. Oaxaca. Bonjour, Hélène. The mezcal is just, well, Oscar has a class going on downstairs, and I mean, I wouldn't touch the stuff just to be on the safe side. No, but I'm thrilled to have you here. So this is the capital city of the state of Oaxaca, the most indigenous state in all of Mexico. There's about 4.5 million people, I think. 4.5 million in the state of Oaxaca. About 500, 600,000 here. Hey, Casey, in the city. Hola, and it is, first of all, I did have a lot of phone calls recently about, some of you are hearing the news from Sinaloa in the northwest of Mexico, that there's been a real sort of, government issue as they captured a narco. None of that here. I feel safe as can be. Do you know, I actually walk around even with my wallet in my back pocket. I probably shouldn't, but that's how safe I feel here. This is, of course, it's January here. It's probably 25 degrees right now, would you say?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable.
25, 26. At night is about 10. That's Celsius, of course. So that's about 80 Fahrenheit or so. It is this fabulous, fabulous blue sky. So we're sitting upstairs, but just have a look at the sky for a second. The weather is just perfect. The birds are out. I mean, I wake up early, looking out the window, watching the birds. And we're over by one of the central parks here. So it's such a treat. Janice, you should be here because I have a whole group arriving today. In fact, the first 4 people are landing while I'm doing this tour with all of you. I'm staying at a hotel. La temperatura, Natalie, está en 25 grados, más o menos. So I'm staying at a hotel about 5 minutes walk from here. So I know that over the week we'll be doing a few different tours. The local time is 1 o'clock, I think. Yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon right now. En français, si vous voulez. Well, we're speaking Spanish up here. However, just to come back to Oaxaca itself, you see the corn behind us, of course. We're in the birth of food in so much of the New World. Hey, Patty, nice to see you. And, of course, this is also the land of mole. So tomorrow, my group will be doing a cooking class with Oscar, and they'll be cooking mole. You know, chocolate comes from Mexico. And there's not all moles are chocolate, but it's much better that Oscar explains all of that one day. I just sit back. I don't do the cooking. I just watch and enjoy the food. But we ate like kings yesterday. It was lovely. But this is also the most intensely indigenous state in all of Mexico, and it's another reason I love it. So there are corn birds. They're not, but there are different types of corn here. How many varieties of corn are there?
64.
Sorry?
64.
64 varieties of corn. By the way, anyone who hasn't met, there's Oscar there. All right, so this is his restaurant. So Oscar and I have known each other for years now, and it's so much fun bringing groups here. So you see, here. So 64 varieties of corn. Oh, it's so healthy, the food. And so it's very easy for you vegetarians on board to be vegetarian. But I tell you what, why don't we all just go out for a nice little walk, just a quick introduction over the next week or so, I'll take you out on lots of different walks. Colleen, it is the best mole. Now, just a little bit of the reason why I'm here. So I have brought groups here. I first came here in 1996. I first traveled here. I was about 4 years old. So I was very young to have a backpack on. But and then my dad spent 3 winters here. So some of you met last time Liliana. She was my dad's Spanish teacher. She's going to come every morning and give classes to my group while they're here. We're going to go out. So please keep in mind, tomorrow, for example, I would love to put up a last minute surprise tour. Sorry, Sunday, if I can. So put on alerts because I'm going to a place called Hierba del Agua, which are terraces, but I'm not sure about the phone reception there. So I'll have to put it up last minute. It didn't used to be, but apparently they're expanding it. So let's go down for a little walk. Is everyone hearing me okay? Because I'll leave. I won't put my headphones in as long as you're hearing me just fine. Yeah? Okay. So, salud. Oh, that water is strong. So it's lovely. So we're upstairs here. Look at the flowers, everyone. So Oaxaca is extremely safe. Oscar was giving a cooking class earlier, and everyone's off there eating their mole at the moment. It's here, I'll give you a quick little zoom. Oh, it's probably a little too dark, but everybody's down there in the corner. There's some people from the Netherlands. Hi, Ruth. Netherlands, New Zealand, Canada. Hi, thanks, Michelle. So everyone's having a beautiful lunch together. And oh, they were having so much fun. So let's go out for a wander. Now, one of my plans over my years is I'm going to come here and buy an old Volkswagen Beetle, and I'm going to drive it all the way home. Because you have to go with the pace of life. So look at the growth here. So they have a very distinct rainy season and a very distinct dry season. We're at 1,550 meters above sea level. So they call this an eternal spring-like climate. And I tell you what, it does feel that way. Now, I have to say, I have never been here in July, August, in the rainy season. But you will see they do have earthquakes. And so this is one of the realities. Of course, there's 3 plates that come together in Oaxaca down here. And so obviously you have the colonial style architecture, but it's all low. And it's low principally as a result of the earthquakes that occur in the area. When was the last? 2000? El último terremoto fuerte. 17, no? Yeah, in 2017 there was the last big earthquake. Of course, people are all prepared for it. Carla, it doesn't just look gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Now, I have a close relationship with Mexico and Latin America. I think part of the reason I like to promote Oaxaca itself, though, is so often people's experience in Mexico is they go somewhere for a week on a beach, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's an important thing to the economy. It's a big employment, but you come here, this is the culinary center of Mexico, indisputably. Look at the agave plant right here. See that, everyone? I mean, it's just fabulous, and the flowers are coming out, and then cactuses all over the place. I might even just do one morning tour just by the hotel for everyone looking at birds, just for the sheer love of it. But of course, this was laid out. This is very early settlement, early Spanish conquest. But because Mexico was so isolated and moving around was so difficult, you had a very small colonial population, and that has allowed the indigenous populations to continue on here really quite proudly. So my friend Oscar comes from Mixteca background. So there's Mixteca and Zapotecs. And on Monday, I'm taking my group to Monte Alban. Feel free to Google Monte Alban. That is the oldest planned city in the Americas, or the first planned city, a Zapotec city. I am going to try, again, it would be a last minute thing, but I'll try and stream a last minute video for you when my group's having their tour. That's where the famous ball game was played as well. But there are 15 languages spoken in Oaxaca, but the 2 big groups, roughly 50% of the population speak an indigenous language. Thank you, April. Yes, exactly. Monte Alban. It is a fascinating site. I put it up there with Machu Picchu as a place to see. It's a bit easier to get to than Machu Picchu. But here we are. We're just going to wander up and show you some of the fabulous colors. If you enjoy lovely, colorful food, lovely, colorful clothing, this is absolutely one of your places to come to. Look at the lovely buildings up here too. Look at the cactuses up on the roof up there. It's just such a treat. So I'm sorry, because I don't have my headphones in, I feel like I'm yelling at the camera, but hopefully everyone hears me. And here you are, ladies and gentlemen. I just have to give everyone a flower for a moment here, because at home, I didn't look today. I talked to Finn this morning, but it's, minus whatever. Look at this. Buena comida. The food is, just, I think the word interesting and fascinating. Some of you will remember last year we did a cooking class with Oscar and I tried his spicy sauce and I started sweating and my face turned bright red. So you might remember that. But yesterday we had 4 courses of food. It was just lovely. Natalie, you did miss it. I'm sure there's a picture floating around out there. But let's come on up here for a second. Now, there's loads and loads of tourism here at the moment. Thanks, Carla. Loads of tourism, and loads of people come down here to study Spanish, and that makes tons of sense. And if if you are at all interested in Spanish classes, our good friend Liliana does them virtually as well. So I'm a huge believer in learning Spanish because once you come south from Canada, even when I'm in the States, I speak Spanish a lot of the time. Now look at the colors down here and have a look at the word written with an X. No, xotla. So it's a sh sound, very common in the Zapotec language. And again, we're talking about, hey, Harriet, hi, nice to see you. Harriet is the one. Harriet, I want you to meet my friend, Oscar.
How are you?
Who has a cooking class here. Harriet is a guide in Uganda.
Okay.
And has become sort of part of our connection. And she's a brilliant guide. Hola, Maria. Buenos dias. Yes, my friend, I tell you what, if you're interested in Spanish classes, just contact me through my website and I'll put you in contact with Lily. She had been my dad's teacher. She's twice given Finn classes, Spanish classes. So hi, Tricia, lovely to have you here. I was just chatting with a fellow from Dunedin who was just in one of the cooking classes with Oscar. But look at these lovely plazas we come down here. Now, out in front of us is some of the early important infrastructure. Now, you don't drink the water here, obviously, for lots of reasons. It's not cleaned and there's a lot of minerals in the ground. But this is actually an aqueduct out in front of us. It ceased operation back in the 50s, but it goes way back to the whole colonial structure of moving water down into the city. So, aqueducts are always pretty impressive. Of course, people have been living here quantifiably for over 20,000 years, and maybe even longer. And that's because all these valleys is a natural breadbasket. If you're brave enough, and you have to be very brave, on my YouTube channel, I have a video of driving in Oaxaca down to the coast. When Finn and I went driving, the buildings are so lovely. Let me turn and just give you some color glow, because it is just gorgeous. Look at that. Now, it's a pretty political city, very left-wing city, so it suits me perfectly that way, and pretty political in activity. But yeah, I do have a video of driving on the roads. We go all the way up to, ¿cómo se llama? San Juan de... San Jose del Pacifico, which is the hippie town. Of course you can. Okay. But I want to take you around to the right here first. I'm just waiting for some cars to come by. And that's where the hippies used to go for the magic mushrooms. And then you drive something like 2,500 curves. So look at the piñata up there, because when you're in Mexico. By the way, if you want to have a good laugh, just go on YouTube and watch piñata accidents. People have masks on their faces. The curvy road was crazy. But yeah, we'll have a look back down here at the square. Look at this gorgeous view. So there's several pedestrian streets here that make a ton of difference to the environment. It won't rain at all the whole time we're here. There was a chance we would have had a bit of cool weather, but we're not. It's perfect. And because I have people coming from cold places, so they're looking so forward to this perfect weather here. And the lovely, there's so much color, Kaylin. Hi, Joe, nice to see you here. So I don't know, yo creo que voy por ahí. ¿Tienes que volver o ven? ¿Sí? ¿Te vas? Okay, everyone, so Oscar has another class he has to go give. So he's going to go back. Yo vengo cuando termino. Ya, un abrazo. Bye. So everyone, again, I feel so lucky that I have friends around the world like this. And my group that's arriving today are going to do 2 cooking classes with him. So, we have obviously an economic relationship, but also just a friendship. And look at that quetzal. You see that? It's not really a quetzal, but a stylized bird there. This place is made for photography. And the quality of life. So I flew down to Houston. As I say, I was meant to to see Mary Beth down there and her daughter. I was looking so forward to it. And then all the flights were grounded. And then I flew, though, down into here. You do hear it. It's perfect. But you see, check out the old, this is a full water infrastructure that they had once upon a time. So the boda, do you know, even at my hotel, there's clearly going to be a wedding or something this weekend, which will be wonderful if there is, because they were putting things out for that. But very typical. See, the Spanish, of course, came and built grids. But keep in mind, just coming back to this conversation about Monte Alban, because Monte Alban was a planned city all the same by the Zapotec people, and it's structurally very logical. It's high up on a hill where you can watch in all directions. And so they controlled the area, and it's going back sort of to the 8th century, but probably earlier than that. But it was a truly planned city. So right up beside me, sorry, I'm just watching for traffic. I want to frame myself over here. And you know what? Zapotecos and Mixteca. So they're both groups. So our friends here are actually more Mixteca, even though this is more Zapotec around here. So this is the Institute of Artisanal Art here in Oaxaca. And it is so lovely how this community has really become an artistic destination for people, whether Mexican or international. And if you haven't yet, hey Pam, nice to see you, my friend. Do yourself a huge treat and listen to the music of Lila Downs. Lila Downs is from here in Oaxaca. She, I think, has the greatest vocal variety of any singing artist that I've ever known. And so if you, thank you, April. She is spectacular. She lives here. I have never had the chance to meet her, but Oscar knows her, so I'm trying to meet her at some point. Now, if you have a look behind me, look at the mountains up there. You're actually looking east. You go up and over those mountains. There's actually communities that are up at 3,000 meters up there. Again, I'm at 1,500 meters, 5,200 feet roughly. You go up and over those mountains, then you will eventually start to descend down all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's kind of roughly where we are. If you imagine that Mexico has a big bend in it, we're down at the bottom. And up around us, in all areas, now it's the dry time of year, so the trees are pretty dry, but they have areas for concerts. And of course, unlike home, well, we go to concerts, of course, all the time at the Banff Center, but here, of course, there's music playing outside all the time. And again, I'm being a little careful crossing the streets, but it's not like other places where you feel like you're taking your life into your hands. So let's just keep wandering. Oh, Diane, the colors are just, it's so lovely. Sorry, there's a huge lineup of people, so I just don't want to get in everybody's way at the moment. And like I say, I feel so safe here. And of course, if you know much about Mexican culture, they do have the Day of the Dead, which is taken very, very seriously. And it's a huge event. Now, this is local government, so everybody's waiting for some purpose out there. So I'm just going to get it. I don't like to put cameras right in people's faces, obviously. And I don't really know. Oh, that's a legal lineup. Chloe, we were within 100 meters of my house. So for us, I don't feel it at all. My advice, I have some people coming on this tour who are from sea level. They're not going to feel sick at all from the altitude, but I do recommend that everyone drinks a ton of water at the beginning, because this time of year, the humidity is very, very low as well. It is an absolutely delicious climate. For heat, this is my favorite kind of heat, because it's not oppressive, right? And it cools off at night. You look so often, and because this has become such a culinary center down here, so many of the restaurants have these terraces. So you do need a light coat. Like I have my fleece, and I will be putting it on in the evening. So I just cut across here safely. And so even though basically I got in early yesterday, I haven't wandered down into town. So it's lovely to bring you all back here with me. Oh, the colors, Harriet, are lovely. In fact, let me show you the street for a second out here as well. So this is Quetzalcoatl, this street here. And I want to tell you a little bit about that name. Some of you, now the quetzal is the national bird of Guatemala. I'm thinking about a trip to Guatemala, by the way. Do you know, Sam, his chocolate is fabulous. The exporting of stuff is really rather hard for them. Now, I did last year, Oscar did one tour with me, and then he did one tour on his own, and we got him signed up as a guide, and he's just excellent. But he's so busy right now because every day he does 2 cooking classes. So, I've obviously reserved him for private events for my group, But when I showed up today, he had a full crowd of people. So he's just doing so well that he just doesn't even have room to grow it at the moment. Isn't that nice? But his chocolate is interesting. And next time that I'm up there, I will show you around the chocolate. Again, it's just so many people don't know that chocolate comes from Mexico, right? So it is actually fundamentally Mexican. When they have it in food, like mole, it doesn't taste sweet at all. It's very, very healthy, as you can imagine. Now, this was, of course, very much under the thumb of the Catholic Church, and I apologize if you're Catholic, but of course, so much is coming out again and again and again about the abuse. Until Vatican II, women still went into monasteries here for their entire life. So you can imagine what a sort of conservative regime it was. It is said, it's hard to quantify, and I don't like to speak for Indigenous groups without sort of enough internal knowledge, but the Mixteca culture was also quite a machismo, like quite a male-dominated society, which is not true of many other groups. Hey, Martin. And so for about 3 centuries, women were not really permitted to have an education during the colonial periods, as you can imagine. On one of our tours, probably one of my morning ones, I'm going to take you out to the public square where we have the statue of Benito Juarez, who was still a controversial figure in the history of Mexico, but he was the first indigenous leader anywhere in the Americas. Have a look down here. Now, artisania and also fresh juices. Sorry, I just trying to read your... there's one of those famous lines. I think thank you, Colleen. We've all heard it before, where there was a fisherman down here in the Mexican coast. This is a story that gets repeated quite a lot, but I'll tell it to you anyway because it's a fun one. And he would go out and fish for a few hours in the morning, and he'd get enough fish to sell, to have food, and then he'd spend the rest of the day with his family on the beach, enjoying the views. And this international business person came there and said, "Oh, let me invest in you. I'm going to turn you into a giant fishing fleet. You're going to become the most powerful fishing person in the coast of Mexico." There's mezcal. And he said, "Well, why would I want to do that?" He said, "Well, then you'll make more money." He said, "Well, what do I do with that?" "Well, then you'll have more employees." And he said, "Well, what happens when I get rich?" He said, "Then finally you can sit back and enjoy the view." And he said, "Well, that's what I'm doing right now." And I do love that particular story. What do you think of this? So you have so many of these internal spaces here. And very much, it is so true, isn't it? Sorry, and here, so this is actually pumping clean water. Thanks, Helen. And again, water is an issue, and it's very important not to drink it. And unlike other places in the world, you'll meet locals who do drink it from the tap. Here they don't. And so that is something one has to take quite seriously. I want to have, look at this, Oaxaca te amo. Oaxaca, I love you. It is. Chocolate is complicated. The chocolates here, Oscar even has one that has caffeine. There's caffeine naturally occurring in chocolate as well, but it's sort of caffeinated. I remember eating it and not sleeping for several hours. So, and lots of art studios as well. Sorry, I'm just watching the traffic as we come down. So there's several of these streets. They all lead down to the central square. I'm not trying to show you everything in one go here. This is just the start of a little taste of the city. Last year, I think we did... Gracias, abre. Tu hablas español, parece, huh? Now, my Spanish is actually quite South American, and I do like when I catch up with friends here because, of course, there's quite a distinct accent here in Mexico, needless to say. My Spanish is actually kind of straddled between Chilean and Peruvian, which is sort of funny. But I understand 99.9%. Do you know the only thing I struggle with in Mexico is they have different names for a lot of foods and fruits. So that's that's one thing. So this is the big Santo Domingo Monastery up here. I might see at some point if I can get permission to go in and offer a tour inside, but I'm sure I'd have to ask for that because it is a fascinating building. Here's tourist information over there. And then, beautiful. Oh, this map here, just for the sheer fun of it. So, exactly. Hey, thanks, Janice. Thanks to you. So this is the distribution of mezcals. So mezcal is tequila, so everyone's heard of tequila and very few people have heard of mezcal, but mezcal is the generic term. There's more mezcal produced here in Oaxaca than any other state in Mexico, but there's only 5 regions that actually produce tequila. Now on Sunday, we're going to definitely have lunch. Hey, Ken. We're definitely going to have lunch at one of the mezcal production areas, so I might try and put up a last minute tour as well. So I'm sorry, it's going to be a lot of last minute tours, but obviously I have a group here and then there's reception issues. But it's fascinating because some of the trees are harvested after 3 years, others are after 10 or 12 years, and then it's how you produce it. You know, I do joke around. I actually don't drink a great deal of it. I find it, you know, it can easily be 50% alcohol, and it just takes a toll on the body. These ladies are here last year. Can we fly one? Oh, you can fly in internationally. Yes, if that's what you're asking, Elena. You could fly in from Houston and Dallas. So in fact, 4 people I know in my group were flying through Dallas, and they probably just landed about 10 minutes ago. So here is Monasterio Santo Domingo aquí. These all go back to the 16th century. Very, very quickly, of course, usurped the power. The architecture is, of course, very impressive. But remember, they do get big shakes here. We have all these tectonic plates that come together right down through here. Now, it's fun for, obviously, Pam's here from Banff as well. So our mountains are these same mountains. Hey, Susie. Our mountains are these same mountains that come all the way down here. It's the Western Cordillera. But what's happening down here in the curve of southern Mexico is you have really, say, 3 plates that are banging together. Look at these ladies. These are all here last year. Yeah, you know what? Thank you, Chloe, for passing that on. Please do, everyone. So Vanessa, who, of course, I hung out with when I was in Lima, and we talked about it and said, you know, do Spanish for traveling. And so she is doing intro to Spanish classes. Thanks, Margaret. I cannot... Well, obviously, I think we all agree that Vanessa is just an outstanding guide as well. She's excellent explaining things, very clear voice. But I think it's lovely to be doing that. You know, it's really a good thing for all of us. And then, as I say, if you wanted to actually have private classes with a friend who teaches Spanish here, you'd be very welcome to. I just like to try without sticking the camera in people's faces, just to come and show you this. Is it on Sundays? Nice, boy. Have a look at this. So here is Mexico UNESCO and Centro Histórico de la Ciudad de Oaxaca. So this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the city of Oaxaca, and it totally deserves to be. It is a, so they've protected the whole inside of the city. Patty, anytime. So yeah, reach out, go on Vanessa's classes, and then say, I have my friend Lily, because there's many, many Spanish schools down here. And during, of course, the pandemic, a lot of them went online to be giving, was it Fridays? Went online because, of course, no one could travel. Now, it was interesting. When we were here last year, everyone was still wearing masks. Now about, well, I don't see that many now, but people are super, of course. You know, Harriet, Spanish is not just a beautiful language. It's obviously, I mean, needless to say, it's very colonial, but it is such a useful language, because basically, anytime you go south from Canada, right, when I'm in hotels in the United States, I end up speaking Spanish so often because so many of the workers come from Mexico or Nicaragua or Guatemala, and of course right down through South America. And even when I'm in Brazil, I can manage to get by really in Spanish, kind of half Spanish, half Portuguese. So it is, Luna, it's warm, it's sunny. They changed this mural. I came down here to show you a mural, which was a hymn to Oaxaca, but they've changed it. I just want to come and show you. And again, it's Spanish is quite easy to learn, actually, Harriet. And, you know, obviously I grew up speaking French, so Spanish wasn't that far off. But I find Spanish quite easy because it's phonetic. So, I mean, like every language, there's some little challenges. Isn't that fabulous? Alonso Chavez, say que Dios nunca muere. It says, yeah, God never dies. I don't know about that, but and there's just a lovely view, of course, of Santo Domingo, and of course the mountains up in the back. There are communities up there that, hey, Pauline, next to you. There's communities up there that are as high as 3,000 meters above sea level, so really high up. Boy, it's fun. I've got yeah, Harriet, I just think it's such a useful language. And as I say, when you travel, I mean, you can travel around in Latin America without Spanish, of course, but you should never go on the assumption that people speak English, first of all, and secondly, of course, it just opens so many doors. And, you know, being able to read it, I think we can all agree. But now, obviously, as many of you know, if you've known me for a long time, I have a lot of interest in indigenous languages. And the most spoken indigenous language in the Americas is Quechua, and I speak some Quechua, which is Inca. But here, both Zapotec and Mixteca are spoken by over a couple of million people. Have a look at these cool shirts. I don't know what I wear them, but they're pretty cool shirts. And it's all locally made. Quechua, sí, Abril, Ayayanchu. So, So, check this out. So this is just, of course, as much of, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to do one little walk around here for a second and just show you some of the public art that's for sale. Maybe Martine, I did get Finn that shirt in La Paz, Bolivia, and it just looks wonderful on him. And I did, thank you, Viola. And I did bring my No Drama Llama shirt with me. But my Mexican shirt I didn't bring because I thought that'd be a bit silly. Look at the colors. The other thing that I find quite jealous here is nothing is cookie cutter, right? Everything's made for your local environment. Isn't it lovely, Susie? And I just think, given that Mexico's been in the news very recently with a lot of violence up in Sinaloa, and that is, of course, El Chapo's son was taken. I mean, it's tragic up there. But down here, you can sometimes read about areas of Oaxaca that are kind of no-go. I can tell you, thanks, Patty, none of it has ever affected me in any way because I don't look for it. And I think if you're out looking for trouble, I suppose you can find it. But this is fascinating. These are hearts. Look at this. Oh, you know what, Helen? I think you have a really cool public market there in Tucson. Thanks, Ruth. Or, Helen, if you happen to be with your students right now, first of all, hi to your students. And secondly, teach them to say Tucson because people really like that here. But Oaxaca, I know that a lot of visitors really struggle with the name Oaxaca. But if you imagine just with a W, you learn to pronounce it very quickly. Isn't that just gorgeous on your bike, mate? So let's continue. So, I mean, each time I can do a walk here, I can walk in a different direction. I do feel very funny not having my kid here with me because, of course, Finn was here with me last year. But he's busy getting himself ready for university. So, a couple of years to go. Look at all these colors out here. So we'll head down. The time we have today, let's make it down to the big central square. Now, normally in the central square, there's always people protesting one or another. But the newly elected governor has apparently cleared that out, which is interesting. Oh, yeah, Luna. It's interesting. Of course, in Mexico, it's still, of course, Spanish, but they have, lots of different terms here that are quite normal. So a lot of these women who are out selling things have come in from the towns in the country. So I'm giving you all the positives. Of course, I can give you some of the negatives as well. It's not for me here to focus on the negatives, but there obviously is still quite a lot of fairly intense poverty out in the regions, and that's why people end up, of course, often migrating up to the capital city. Now, obviously, Mexico City itself is just massive. It's no longer El Distrito Federal. They broke it up, but we still call it DFA. And it's floating up around 20-something million people. Depends, los jaguares. And son lindos, los jaguares. And there are jaguar populations up in the mountains. It's amazing when you drive out of here and you drive up in the hills, up to the Mancomunidades, which are all Zapotec speaking, at least the ones to the east. If you go further up, you get into the Mixteca areas. But you get up there and you move into pine forest again, which is what happens with altitude, exactly like at home. Right? But look at this sky and this climate. So I wake up in the morning, listen to the birds outside, which are all over migrating through, and all the flowers come in on the trees. And then you get a little bit of evaporation, but it's going to be dry now right through to about June. And then it'll rain almost every day. But of course, down when I was in South America, the rains only started and they were late. So that was good news. Here, I'll just let you listen to a little bit of music here as I walk by for a second. So I'm just going to take some money out of my pocket here. Jill, interestingly enough, let me come back to that. I'll just go past this. Gentleman is Cypher. Caballero, hola, buenos días. Gracias a usted. So the water issues, I actually had a friend who did their master's thesis on that. So basically, Mexico City was built over a gigantic lake. And the water is effectively gone. And you see it when you look down the big, long streets in Mexico. You're going to see this kind of waving in the buildings. And that's because of a lot of settlement. Yeah, Helen. Well, yeah, in Peru has just started. So it really is a huge thing. Do you know, Jill, I think maybe, love, I will give you a tour. And I want to reach out because there's a guide in Mexico now on Hago. So I want to reach out and try and catch up with Raul. Which would be really fun. But when in Mexico City, I really enjoy it for about 3 or 4 days. Like, I love the intense cultural environment of it. I like the parks. But I find, the high altitude I love. It's the exact same height as Arequipa is, 2,300 meters. The real trouble I find is because the air quality is so bad. I just really feel it when I'm up there. Like I've got a mineral sunscreen on. If I'm looking pasty white to you, I put on one of those zinc sunscreens when I'm here. Of course, I've been up at home in the snow, not getting any sun on my body. But yeah, Mexico after 3 or 4 days, I start to hurt in the JV. So yeah, no, we've texted with him, but try and get a nice catch up when we're there. Unfortunately, I was going to stay in Mexico City a couple of days longer than my group, but believe it or not, I have to fly to Montreal. So I'm taking the red eye to Toronto the night of the 22nd. I'm going to Montreal and Quebec City. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Let's keep wandering down here for a few more steps, everyone. And then I am going to go back to Oscar's and have a little lunch. I'm pretty lucky because I just get food given to me when I come there because he's doing cooking classes. And then I'm going to go meet my people arriving. And I might have to do something really hard this afternoon, like, maybe sit by the pool for a while. It's going to be something really punishing. The time that is about 1:30 in the afternoon. So it's like a perfect time for lunch. There's some more music going on over here too. It's lovely here. Now, let's talk about well, these buildings, so this is the main city center. I'll just talk about, see how the police are covered up there? So these buildings all through here, this is the central part of the city. Just about everything is either going to be, as you'll have a look up here, religious in origin. Because, of course, really, basically the deal during the conquest. Thanks, Colleen. So basically in what is Latin America, there were two capitals. There was Mexico City up here and Lima down in the south. And then Buenos Aires was sort of a regional thing. So those were the two bases. So those were really the basis of governance. This was such an isolated area in here that this was the structure of government. And basically you had the government or military control during the colony. And then everything that was education, social service was run by the church. So those are kind of the two extremes, and that reflects itself really for about 350 years. Of course, thanks, Martin. Mexican independence was a fairly long process, and we will do a fairly long history on that one day. Yeah, but so basically these buildings today, if they're not part of the old religious infrastructure, like this one at the back here, then there are shops and restaurants, just really the very typical things. They build with two things. You've got the buttressing, thanks Karen, on the outside of these buildings, which of course is very typical medieval Catholic construction, but also this buttressing was done because, of course, earthquakes, right? And that's why you have arches. Now you have arches as well because of just the kind of perfect climate you have here all the time. This is a business, I don't know how it survives here. Domino's. And I say that because the food here is so good. One of the things people eat are bugs. And it's something we're all going to have to eat. As I promise on one of our tours, I'll eat bugs for you because they're dried crickets generally, chaparrones. And of course, they're loaded with protein. Their health is healthy as can be. And they taste just fine. A little salty. No, they're lovely. It's what the world, that and cuy. So you'll see that the exchange rate, by the way, they're giving 18 pesos to the dollar. I'm amazed at the latest problems up in Sinaloa that didn't affect the peso at all. And then you do have always this kind of security up here. It is absolutely. Chapolin, thank you. Yeah. And so also, like if you get a salad out here in the big central square, often it will come. Do you know, Colleen, I'm going up on Sunday up the valley. I don't know if we're going to go in because we're going to go to Yervalagua. Which if I get reception, I'll put on a last minute tour. And then because Sunday is actually the biggest market outside of Oaxaca, and everyone who comes here as a tourist, thanks Kathleen, wants to go there. And so really, I think my day is maybe going to be full. So I will be in Mitla. We'll probably have lunch around there, but I don't know if I'll go into the archaeological site. That's why Monte Alban. And of course, I am going up to Mexico City with my group as well. All the shoe shine people are looking at my shoes, which absolutely need shining. So maybe I'll do that after. But this is the first time I have seen, this is a Zócalo. Remember in Mexico, they say Zócalo. In every other Spanish country, it's Plaza de Armas, the central square. This is the first time in at least 15 years I've seen it without people protesting all around. So again, very, very political out here. and I agree with a lot of their values. But you look at the French style architecture. OK, elle est gros bise, et puis on y parle bientôt, hein? Bonne journée. But yeah, they had all sorts of different protests going on here, and apparently the governor cleared it out. I haven't really had the conversations enough to have any kind of an opinion to offer to all of you yet about that. But let's just come up here on the square, and then we'll go around and see the front of the big cathedral itself. Now, if I go down about a block more to the south, isn't it gorgeous, Just Luna? Yeah, I really don't. Some of the people, some people really don't like a camera being put in their face. So this is why I'm not really focusing on people. Thanks, Melanie. Obviously I don't want to be ever inappropriate that way. But here at night, you will have music all over the place. But the last now I've been coming here, since 1996, right? And 1995, I think. I can't even remember. I think 95. I've been coming here, and I'd say my dad spent, you're welcome, Kathleen. I spent 3 winters here, and then I brought Finn back for Spanish lessons most years. So it's such an easy place to get to as well. And, I love my mountains and my snow, but this time of year to come and have this, I don't know if you can hear the birds all singing up above me in these massive old trees, which are in the Ceiba family. And of course, if I can do a last minute tour out in Tule, everyone, Tule is the biggest tree in the world by girth. So we did do, thank you, Albert, lovely family. And well, it's interesting because I feel very welcome here because the lady who does the Spanish classes with my group, she taught my dad for 3 years, and she came and visited Canada. And so her family always invite us over as well. So it's so nice to feel connected. I have a huge amount of respect for her sister because she works in social work here, and in a society that doesn't necessarily take care of the most needy. So it's they're interesting things. So I love the fact that we have those connections here as well. Have a look at all the public art. Now my reception's bouncing a little bit around here, so hopefully you're hearing me just fine. And I cannot really tell you anything about these artists because this is all new to me, but I can tell you that if you do come here, the amount of beautiful art that you see just everywhere, I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And so colorful. These are chapulines. Look at that. So, these are the grasshoppers. Yeah. Entre los chapulines. Mira. Do you know what, everyone? I'm sorry. I'm going to back up because as I get close to this building, it's a government building, and probably it's kind of blocking the signal a bit. So I don't want it to cut out on me down here, although I am thrilled overall how it works. Now you can make out the fact that we are in a valley all around. So when we drove up and over to the coast, the famous beach resort here is Huatulco, and we drove around to the coast, Finn and I, on the last trip, and I once took a tour group down there. I don't think I'll ever do that again because of the amount of people getting sick on the bus. But you've also got Puerto Escondido. Yeah, they are just amazing. Absolutely right, Trish. But you see, I'm getting my signal really is bouncing around on me here. Hey, MB, yes, you remember that, don't you? Is everyone hearing me okay? Because it's only showing that I have 1 bar. So I hope, yeah. But yeah, so Huatulco is one of the youngest resorts in all of Mexico. It's a bit blurry now. So I don't know why it's bouncing around now, but sometimes it's, of course, the app as well. But generally, because I did there I am. I'm back on full bars again. But does anybody see if I were to pick that up, because I've been doing this vegetarian January, if I were to pick up those balloons, I would actually take off. But that's all right. I'll start eating moles and everything. So, whoops. Young people selling things. All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, I'm getting close to time. I realize this is just a little teaser of so much to show you here. So as I say, some of my group are probably landed right now. They're probably just going through passport control, and they're going to come into the center. So I'm actually going to head back to the hotel to meet them there. Thanks, Diane. No, un gusto, Janice. Para lo que quieran practicar su español, será espectacular. I did send a message to Ophelia. You might remember she came on a tour with us. She used to live in Ottawa, but she's from here. She's actually away for 2 weeks in Puebla right now. Thanks, Chloe. So what we're doing, this little tour then, thanks, Larry. Oh, Larry, sorry, I didn't even see you there. Everyone, it's Larry down in Memphis. Hey, big hugs to you. Yeah, this is this. Yeah, exactly. This has got a golden. Exactly. This has a golden arch. Do you know? Doors open. Let me just see if I can peek my head in for a second. Sorry, Laura. I love it when other guides come on board. And of course, Memphis is such a fascinating city, too. Well, we're going to give you different tours. But really, what I'm doing is I call this a cultural week. So my group are coming here. We're 6 nights here, and then we're going up to Mexico City. And so I'm staying. And so really, tomorrow doing a cooking class, Sunday all the way out in the valley. Monday, I'll go down to Monte Alban. And then a couple of free days, although with lots of fun things. This I always find hilarious to see. Look at the Christmas tree up there, because all these images of winter and snow. But yeah, so I'm just having time, and I told them I'd be doing virtual tours. I've actually got one gentleman coming on the trip who did connect through Hago, so that's really fun. Coming down from Ontario. So isn't it neat the way we mix the two things? But really, people asked me, I do find, let me just sneak into the church for a second, okay? I don't do very well in churches, but my reception's holding. So, well, it's stunning, but I'm just not going to say anything for a second in here. I wouldn't want to disturb a mass or anything, but okay. No, you know what? I'm not going to. There's a bunch of people up ahead that were praying, so I really don't want to disturb them. I have, of course, very deeply mixed feelings about the role of the Catholic Church in this part of the world, and as I've always been very open about, my father was a victim of abuse in the church, so I always feel a little funny coming into some of these places. But obviously, the edifices are distinctly impressive, and so much of the story of the area. So, yeah, April, yeah, it's in New Zealand, actually, believe it or not. That's where it happened with my dad. But yeah, so those are all different stories. Yeah, well, and some of this, so I'll take you around. Again, I could do about, well, those of you who joined us last year, we do at least 5 distinct walks in Oaxaca here. Yeah, sorry, Laura, the wind did pick up. This is where my headphones are better. But I tell you what, the architecture is fantastic, and it is lovely. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, I've already filled my time. Hi, John. Hola, Silvia. I've already filled my time here, so I just want to say, firstly, hola a todos los amigos acá en México. Muchas gracias para darnos la bienvenida de nuevo. I feel really funny. I have not been back here without Finn till I ran a tour back here in 2019, and there's a couple of people here. But it is a place I come back to, and I'm doing more and more of these kind of tours where I'm keeping it to very small groups and just a place where you come and stay for a few days. But I really like doing this sort of thing. Now my year is getting crazy busy already, which I knew it would. But Finn is jealous, but Finn is pretty busy with his GF, so I think that's actually a big priority in Finn's life just at the moment. So, but you're very welcome. It's a real treat to bring everybody down here. There's a lot to share here, and it was fun. I very intentionally, it's not like me, thanks Fiona, I think many of you know I prepare a lot for my tours, but I intentionally didn't walk into town before doing this today, because for me it's fun to see how much I just remember. I'm really lucky that way, and it's so nice to be back here. So I want to say peace and love to all of you. I'm going to just connect right now with my people who probably just arrived here, and I'll see you all tomorrow. And then really, truly, I'm going to be putting, gracias, I'm going to be putting up a lot of last minute tours. So you're welcome, Robin. And again, if you missed them, I'm sorry, but it's just, I have to see how reception is and all of that. But there we are. Let me show you those gorgeous mountains. And if anyone, I have been rock climbing here as well, but lovely, lovely environment. So lots of love. Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, I'll be in Montreal only for the one day, and then I'm going up to Quebec City, but ça fait plaisir d'aller à Montréal. So that dude has got some cool style. You're very welcome, Tricia. It's a big hugs to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of love. Okay. Et ça va, Thomas? On va faire une tour. And I might put up one tour in Spanish while I'm here, everyone. Thanks you, Margaret. So I think it's fun to do it. Anyway, all the very best, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely to see you. Hasta pronto desde Oaxaca. Muchos abrazos para ustedes.